So, Alexander.
Okay, so I think we push which one? The green button, right? It's the green. It's a presentation for dummies. Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, so I'll try to what Oliver and Jose presented is a little bit more in detail about testing. I'll try to present shortly also for the audience that is online, because we have also a lot of people online, to talk about the concepts of the connectathons and the projectathons. And we close a little bit with Gazelle, because Gazelle is in fact the tool that we use for that. So I can try to give some information what we see there as the future of Gazelle. And in fact, we have a workshop about Gazelle on Thursday. So if you are still there, there is a registration online. You can, and it's going to be online as well. So you don't have to be here. You can follow it up. And it's an open workshop where we want to collect also ideas of how we could make Gazelle better. So that's not that this is Gazelle and this is it. The idea is how we can shape Gazelle to do additional things. And ideas than the one like what Jose presented is one very good one, which we're already discussing, in fact. Now, trying to see why we are so focused on testing events. All the discussion that we have in this event and also below proves that whatever we do, we really have to test. So we see interoperability as a teamwork operation where we start from the standards. And the good thing about IHE that we are not restricted on only the HL7 standards. We try to adopt all the standards that are needed to implement a use case. Also the security part, the privacy part, the encryption part, the medical imaging. So it's an aggregation of standards that at the end create the integration profiles. And then we can make different types of testing. So there is a testing continuum that is important here. And obviously the most, let's say, high-level testing, the one that is related only to IHE profiles, is the connectathons. But as we start reusing IHE profiles and integrate them into local, national, regional strategy into projects, then we're moving to a projectathon, which means that it's an orchestrated way of reusing IHE specifications. But in most cases, it's not only about IHE profiles. It's always a localization of the profiles or even new specifications that are fully local, and we can accommodate both on Gazelle. And that's the interesting thing with projectathons. So here you see a, let's say, better shaped version of the testing continuum. So you see that there is a part which is integral to the operation of IHE. Jose presented this presentation of the cycle of creating integration profiles with the deployment with the testing committees that are bringing up new profiles that need to be tested at the connectathons. But the idea is to see and build and blend those specifications into real life projects so that they are used. And this is what will make the difference of which IHE profiles are important and which others are maybe good ideas, but the market is not ready to use them. And this can allow both the vendors to mature their systems, but also the users to reshape a little bit their initial view, because within a testing event, on one hand, you see if your specifications are okay, if they are implementable, and then you might take decisions that I need to change this, I need to reshape that, this is too complex, the vendors are not ready, let's give it a bit more time. So all these are important things that you really see when you make the testing events. Otherwise, it's all on paper and you don't really understand if what you have created is working or not. And obviously we can go much further to conformity assessment. So we use this for labeling or even certification, and which is the case in some cases, the IHE profiles either through the IHE conformity assessment program or integrated and built in other certification program like the one that we are operating here with the Health Swiss. So which can guide towards have specifications that can be of high quality, and you have a very thorough testing version against the machine. So next slide. So a few things about the connectathons. There will be the VIP tools afterwards if you have not seen. So I guess you will join those VIP tours to understand a bit more. But in fact, a Connectathon is a connectivity marathon. So people, they gather in this room. There are several available IHE profiles that can be tested. Each vendor registers its system under test. They select the test plans and the actors and the transaction they want to test that are referring to their prototype or product or system. And then they have a plan they can complete and they should test with the other participants there. So that's more or less the idea. We use Gazelle. Gazelle is a platform that has been developed in the last 20 years, mostly built through the Connectathons and the Projectathons. So it's a continuous evolvement of the testing platform. Every year it's becoming different, more complex, trying to accommodate the needs of the users and the vendors. So we managed to perform thousands of tests in each Connectathon through this procedure. We are using monitors, so people from the user community that offer themselves to be able to validate all those tests based on the specification and the test plans they see in Gazelle. And then the successful results are published also through IHE International. So that's in a very simple diagram what is all about. It's about interoperability testing. We bring the IHE profiles and the specifications to test. It's a peer-to-peer to test event, which means that two vendors, they collaborate to make an end-to-end test to work. So you need a counterpart because you are one actor and the other vendor is performing the other actor. And in the process, there are some also tests that are not peer-to-peer, so they are content tests or there are other profiles as well. But that's the generic simplified idea of testing. So you will see more in the VIP tour later. Now, as said, the Connectathons are part of the technical framework of the development process within IHE. So it's a way that we can check that the specifications are okay, because if you then cannot be tested, it means that something is missing, it's not clear, or it's too complex, or something is not going. So it's a very good meeting point to both for those that create the specification and those that want to integrate them in the products, so that they know how things could go. The monitors, they are, as I said, neutral. It's a team of volunteers. They are not paid to do that. And usually they have some expertise in the domain that they have been, let's say, put as a monitor. So that's more or less, that's a slide from the presentation we do to the vendors, more or less to try to explain what is their journey. So we try to frame a little bit what they should do on every day. When you go to the VIP tour, you can ask the team, which is there, a little bit more details about this journey if you want. But more or less, there is a path on this. Usually the first day is a preparation day. You have to make a lot of preparation to enter in the VPN of the testing platform and all these things. Then you need to start making a plan, discuss with the other partners, the other peers that you want to test with, and try to make something an agenda. So because it's a meeting place. We also use collaboration tools for this. We have also Rocket Chat, because especially in this Connectathon, it's a hybrid testing event. We have one testing floor here and one testing floor in Atlanta. So, and after 3 p.m., we do joint tests between the two floors. So we need collaboration tools so that the one vendor in the US and one vendor in Europe are able to communicate and exchange messages to perform the test. And as we go by, usually the last day is just to finalize a few things. Most tests are done between Tuesday and Thursday in general as a practice. Now, moving to Projectathons. The idea of Projectathons came up after I have performed at least 10, 15 years of Connectathons, and seeing that a lot of projects, regional or national, they are reusing in their own strategy the IHE profiles, some of them based on what they want to do. They have several use cases they want to implement, which now we need to go one step further in testing, not just testing the actors and the transactions of the IHE profiles, but how these are built into real workflows and operations in a project. So a clinician that wants to send information to another clinician, a patient that needs to register and get back his lab report. There are so many, let's say, use cases that you can implement. And usually you need to have a projectathon because you need to orchestrate different actors in those, let's say, use cases, and probably a mixture of different profiles that you need to use so that this business, let's say, workflow can be done. So we use the same tools as in the Connectathons. Again, it's Gazelle, where we have added some additional tools that we use here, like group testing. There are orchestrators for series of tests. So you, instead of making one test plan, you can orchestrate some test plans in a series. And it's a little bit more complex, but it's very fruitful. Here in the floor below, we have the Swiss Projectathon, the 6th one. So you can get in contact with the Swiss participants to understand a little bit more how this is going on. And it's a way of incrementally implementing a national strategy, because you cannot push all the complexity at once. You need to slice it into steps so that both the users and the vendors are able to accommodate and digest the complexity of things. So this is what usually they are doing. And every year they are proposing a new agenda that will be tested after 1 year. And today we are testing what has been decided 1 year ago in Switzerland, that this year we should test this amount of new specifications. Now, the processes are in general the same, but the governance is different. So the Connectathons are governed by the deployment committees. So here is IHE Swiss and IHE-Europe, for example, while in the Projectathons, the one who is giving the governance is the leader organization, the owner of the Projectathon. It can be a national competence center, a Ministry of Health, or any type of similar organization. The rules of passing are set by IHE in the Connectathons, and similarly, it's the lead organization that decides if a test is successful or not. So depending on the complexity, sometimes this can be more complex or not. And the publication of results and the Connectathon, it's done by IHE, and on the other, it's done by the lead organization. So the Projectathons are important because it enables a way of making a co-creation approach of creating the specifications, because when you are proposing this to the vendors, your local vendors or whatever, you are doing this all together with them somehow. So you can make also meetings, collaboration meetings with them during this phase until you are sure that what you are going to bring to test, they will be able to test as well. The second thing is that it's a very good tool to be able to advance your specification like that. You can also use this as a reference implementation for before going to implement to production. This is what we do with DigiSanté for the cross-border case, but also for certification. So you have a freeze version of Gazelle that can be used for conformity assessment, which is a testing against the machine. And also the most important thing is that you create and operate in parallel a digital ecosystem. As IHE-Europe, we are collaborating with all the vendors and we exchange information during the whole year. We're not just here for them on the 5 days of the Connectathon. So this is more or less a way of orchestrating what we do at IHE and what can be done by, I leave the part of labeling and conformity assessment. And in some cases, we have multiple testing instances. One for, which can be used as a sandbox for testing events, and one more formal that can be used for labeling or certification. Examples of projectathons that we do, we have done more than 40 projectathons in the last 8 years. I will stick to the Swiss set of projectathons, where we have done about 6. The My Health ITU, starting from the EPSOS days, more than 25, 30 projectathons with them, twice a year. We recently made a projectathon in Latin America for the digital COVID certificates, and this was not an IHE profile, so we can test other things than IHE profiles. And also in Canada, Health InfoWay, you saw the presentation this morning about the Canadian version of Patient Center. This was tested, and hopefully we're going to make a new one very soon. And we have started, we have created a version of Gazelle for WHO, a WHO clearinghouse that's going to be used in several of the projectathons. It's already partially used for a G20 event that is being done. And as things mature, we will be using this especially to support the low, medium, and income countries managed by WHO. Now, try to close. Gazelle is, as said, an ecosystem of tools. So there is obviously a central base and a central architecture. And we are now revising this architecture to be able to, on one hand, automate the insertion of test plans and specification into Gazelle. So what Jose presented is goes on the authoring tools part, how we can feed Gazelle not manually as much as possible. This is not fully done yet, but we are advancing a lot on this. And then we can we are creating an API, which now it's in version 2, where we can integrate third-party tools so they can work in collaboration with other tools and do more complex use cases. We have integrated the PCHA tools for medical devices, for example, the NIST tools for and the EHLDSI tools, and several others already integrated. But this is an open process, and we are open to add new tools, make new connections. If we can find a way to frame that into something like a project, is much, much better. This is the current status of the Gazelle usage. It's about 25, 26 instances of them. Most of them are operational. Some of them are used, then they are not used, then they're used again. It depends on the funding and the project that's running. So it's quite a long list of expertise with different type of use cases and scenarios that we are using Gazelle. So, and I think that's my last slide. Yes, thank you very much.